decline in the first 5 years with a 45% revenue shortfall in 2018, a 45% shortfall in 2029, 31% in 2020, and 45%, 41% and 50% in 2021 and 2022, as well as 2023 respectively. So we are declining. If you look at the number of years that we are declining, you know definitely something is wrong. Those who are supposed to help fix the country, they are not actually doing that. These revenue shortfalls have created budget deficit and budget deficit that have precipitated our debt crisis and has grown our external debt by 1,333% from the level it was after the Paris debt by tech deal in 2005 and 2006. As of June 2023, Nigeria's total debt portfolio stood at 87.9 trillion, equivalent of 114.3 billion US dollars, and will climb to 109.38 trillion in 2024. Following the recent approvals by the National Assembly, this definitely continues to worry us. You recall we've been here severally to draw the attention of the legislators that this kind of all the times that executive will send directive, because what I see is like directing the National Assembly to do that, not even asking them for their approval, because if it is asking them to critique or to look at it in the international interest, the National Assembly members will have known the repercussion, the consequences of continuously borrowing without even respect or without compliance with the fiscal responsibility law that clearly states what loans should be collected for. We cannot be borrowing money just for people to be doing party. We cannot be borrowing money for people to be traveling, without any commensurable, benefit to the nation. We cannot be borrowing money for people to simply be stealing, outright stealing the money, as we have seen now, from the money that they have borrowed. Even the Auditor General had said that many of those monies have been actually cannot be accounted for. I'll give you an example. Nigeria borrowed 3.4 billion US dollars to help Nigerians against the COVID. Today, officially, Nigerian government, speaking to Nigerian government, said that those money cannot be accounted for. These are borrowed money. And the worst part of it is that Nigeria is borrowing a lot of money from commercial banks. So this laziness, this ruthless approach to collecting free money, easy money, not free money, because it's not free money. You have to pay. Nigerians must pay through their sweat. And some few individuals are collecting this money without cost to putting any developmental project. So if government is telling you that the money government collected is not accounted for, is stolen, so you can see that there's a problem. 3.4 billion was meant to help Nigerians who were suffering from COVID. But what wicked, unpatriotic officials have done was to siphon that money. And this is contained in the Auditor General. Auditor General report is not NGO report. It is government report. So government indicting government. So you can see the level of looting that is going on in the name of borrowing, money. So they borrow it in the name of Nigerians, and you see what happened. You see recently what happened. A ministry was established to help deal with the poverty and humanitarian situation. The ministry official have turned that place into, you all know what has happened. And this problem is in virtually every government agencies. We cannot be borrowing money in the name of Nigerian people and then you are actually diverting this money to your own personal pocket. So it is a big problem we are facing, and therefore, we must draw the attention of the National Assembly to stop, because otherwise history will go against them tomorrow. You might be out of National Assembly as a legislator, but your name will be among the people that endorse this reckless, loans and borrowing, that you then also ask, what are you doing with the money? Because if you approve, you should be able to ask how the money is utilized. If your own power, you think it is just to give them the power to go and borrow, and you do not bother to know how the money has been used, whether it meets with the conditions, under which you say you are going to borrow, definitely there's accountability deficit, and there's also negligence from your own part. So history, members of the National Assembly should remember that any action they have done is recorded, and history one day will vindicate their role. So therefore, what some we are worried that 37% of the Nigerian total external debt figure is on to private accreditors whose loan attract between 6 to 9% and shorter repayment period in comparison to loans from multinational, multilateral and bilateral sources, with interest rate of between 1 to 3% and longer payment period of 10 to 30 years. So what Nigerian officials are doing, because they are virtually exhausting even the credibility to borrow from the multilateral sources, they are now going to private banks to borrow in a huge interest, and they will give you short period to pay. If you don't pay, there's a consequences to that. So why are we in need? Why must we have overbloated, dubious budgetary allocation, appropriation? You can do the appropriation on the basis of your own capacity. You don't need to go to commercial bank to be borrowing money to say you want to do that. What do you do with this appropriation? Are you touching the lives of Nigerians, education-wise, healthcare-wise, productivity-wise, industrialization-wise, infrastructure-wise? We are still battling with electricity. We are still battling with water. In many communities, no drinking water. In many communities, no access to road. In many communities, no functional hospital, and even schools are not there. So what are you borrowing for? Is it just to borrow to siphon the money for the next election? This is absolutely unacceptable. We cannot continue this way, because the consequences of this reckless borrowing is that you are plunging the country and the people into more poverty, into more serious debt repayment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a major problem that we are facing, and we think that the result that debt servicing will cost 98% of our budget, and the government will spend 6 times more on servicing debt than on building new schools and hospitals in 2024. This unsustainable level of public debt highlights the need for reassessment of government spending and revenue generation. Why must you go and be spending, be doing Father Christmas with borrowed money? So the way things are, even our income, the revenue from Nigeria, cannot even pay the service of servicing the debt that we have. This is a big problem. As advocate of economic justice, the tax justice and governance platform was the subnational platforms across 18 states in the country, and the national secretariat coordinated by CISLAC and steering committee by members of Action Aid, Christian Aid, CDD, Center for Democracy and Development, International Budget Partnership, and other Nigerian, and as well as Nigerian Labour Congress, Oxfam, and other partners that we have here. We want to lend our voice once again to this growing concern in demonstration of its civic responsibility, because as civil society organization, when we see things are going this way, we need to raise alarm. we need to blow the whistle so that, appropriate, official would take decisive action. The escalating debt burden has profound implications for the well-being of Nigerian citizens, and the failure to act quickly could result in an additional 23 million Nigerians living in poverty and 80 million working-age citizens without full-time job by 2030. I don't think we will even wait, or the situation will reach 2030 before we experience what we are even saying. We are just being conservative. Many factories have closed down. They have all left the country because of corruption, because of poor infrastructure. So you don't even have, sources where you collect even revenue, because these companies are living. And those ones that are here, like the multinational corporation, especially the oil company, are refusing to pay the taxes that they are supposed to pay, which should be used for development. Secondly, we've seen this fraudulent tax waiver, because many of the people that are giving that tax waiver, tax holiday, and they are the tax incentive. They are, many of them, they have link with those companies. That is why we have been talking about beneficial ownership, so that we will know exactly if you can now, forfeit, or you can give trillion of tax that's supposed to come to the government, you give it to some few individual, and without them committing to real infrastructural development, then you can see that somebody has a hand in it. Otherwise, there's no way you are looking for 5 trillion, and then you're supposed to collect 10 trillion from somebody, and then you are not bothered. Something is cooking there. That is why we have been calling for compliance or implementation of the beneficial ownership, so that we will know the real people sabotaging the Nigerian economy. In response to these multifaceted challenges, the National Assembly, as a steward of the nation's economic well-being, should acknowledge the critical importance of exercising their mandate towards steering the nation back on the path of economic stability and prosperity. Before, Nigerians, they don't want to japa, because what are you going to go and japa when you are better up here? But today, virtually every young person who has been frustrated because they have finished school 10 years, 15 years, no job, they are leaving the country, and the officials are not, seeing this as a major threat to national development, because one energetic, young, agile people who are supposed to be involved in productivity, who are supposed to be helping to generate resources, are leaving the country, and you think you are okay because you have a rented enjoyment, then there's a problem. Many Nigerians, unfortunately, in the process of doing japa, they even die. In trying to cross the sea, in trying to, leave the country for them to survive, they end up being, in trouble. And all this as a result of poor management of our resources, because there's no justification why Nigerians should be suffering the way they are suffering, because God has given us every resources that you can think of, including human resources. But because the country is not investing even in human development capital, many people are left unskilled. So those ones who cannot japa, they are engaged in yahoo. They are engaged in all sorts of fraudulent and criminal things. And many politicians are now recruiting these young, agile people that will be helping in productivity to be engaging in violence, political violence, communal violence, religious violence, and all sorts of things. They are using Nigerians to be killing themselves. This is the reward of what our public officials are giving to our society. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, our recommendation as outlined below, while not exhaustive, aim to mobilize adequate legislative responses that will strengthen debt management, enhance revenue mobilization, plunge leakages, and prioritize government spending in critical sector. You are all aware they brought in budget here. They brought in, executive brought in, budget envelope without need assessment. And our members, our legislators, they just simply support it. They just simply allow it to go. In other places where they take national development priority, you don't do budget envelope. You do budget based on need assessment, and you do not need to recklessly go and borrow in order to steal. You borrow for development, and what you borrowed is supposed to pay back, the debt that you borrow. So when you borrow and you consume, you eat the money, you carry the money, go do party, you carry the money, go do, enjoyment in abroad, leaving the masses swallowing in absolute poverty, allowing the infrastructure to decay, to collapse. Definitely you should ask yourself whether what you are doing, is right. And the funny thing is that many of them who are in the leadership position, they are up to 60 years. Some of them, they are even 70 years. So at 70, you are still doing primitive accumulation. You are still gathering money. When will you have time to eat the money then?